The bleeding had almost stopped. With a little luck, I might even keep the arm. I had been out hunting that afternoon. It had been a drizzly, overcast day in the countryside, where I couldn't tell the mist from my sweat or the sweat from my blood. That monster of a brown bear had gotten me from behind the bush, swiping its gnarly claws clean through my left arm, so that it dangled uselessly at my side as a damp towel loose in the breeze. I escaped a more lethal blow by chance of its own hesitancy after a miscued shot of my rifle, but my bloody hand couldn't hold a matchstick steady, and my shot only nicked a branch beside it. So I turned for the bushes and scurried off, and while it spun about its monstrous head, I staggered away, listening to the foul hissing of saliva from its purple gums, fading with the growing distance. The house I found was an acre wide, and cut as if from a single stone in the manner of a brutish Sainte-Chapelle, collared with a peony garden amongst an empty field with empty fields beyond that. By chance, or perhaps not, all but the door I tried were locked, as if a brick wall 3 layers deep raised between us. I pressed that door shut behind me and immediately felt a sense of safety. I would have believed the bear to be no more a figment of my imagination if it weren't for the mangled flesh at my side. A vermilion velvet carpeting lined the estate's interior floors. The walls held rows and rows of paintings of all kinds, gold frames crammed so close the wall looked like a gilded chessboard. As I pulled my gaze away from the canvases of great rivers and mountainous landscapes, I saw the mistress of the place, a woman of dark hair, turning away. She gripped a filleting knife the length of my forearm, a grim contrast to the soft sophistication of her sparkling navy dress. A thin towel separated the touch of her delicate fingers and the walnut handle. For a moment I held my breath, fearful she might attack me. Perhaps she'd heard me come in, a common burglar probably, and grabbed up whatever she could. Yet her calm stare into the doorway of the other room soon had me wondering if she'd noticed my intrusion at all. As I did not wish to hide my presence, I coughed and nudged the carpet with my booted toe. Her startled leap in place proved my theory. As she turned in my direction, I gazed upon 2 dark eyes like those of a predator, but set in a face graceful as a cherub's. Her lip hung square, and her canines curled out. There was a clear jolt in my jaw, as for a moment I thought I saw something of the bear again in her face. I had been an intruder, yes, but it was animosity, not fear, that beguiled her expression. If she had not dropped the knife in her skittish reaction, I would have clawed open the door and tried my chances in the woods again. But I must not have been the reason she held the knife, for when she recovered, she may have realized her vicious mood herself, and I did not see that face again directed toward me. But why the knife at all, then? Who walks about their manor with a blade in hand? If not for me, then for what? Or perhaps for who? She peered at my bloodied arm and assumed a more maternal role, folding the long blade into her dress and whisking over to me. "You're hurt," she said. I hadn't made a remark other than to nod, waiting to decide if now was when to escape. She was quicker, however, though she made no motion toward the weapon she'd stowed in her blouse. Similarly, I hadn't the strength to pull my damaged limb back after she snatched it into her grip, nor as she led me next through the halls. She blinked down at her own hands, which were now stained with the red liquid. As we hurried, I sucked in my gut to speak. "I'm terribly sorry to intrude, madam." But then those canines poked out her lip again. "Don't get blood on the carpet," she said tersely. "Yes, madam." I returned, although I had no control over the direction or spouting of the flow from the long gash. My injuries, further, must have brought me back some 20 years, since my voice sounded squeaky as a parrot's. She laid me down upon a bench of plush rouge pillows with bronze teeth underscoring the upholstery, and dabbed the seeping wound with nearby tissues. While she did so, my eyes wandered to the ceiling, perhaps by the force of the blood fleeing from my face. To my surprise, an entire landscape illustrated the expanse above us. It was a fresco ceiling. A dozen angels rushed forth, silver swords raised to the sky, charging to meet a line of spear-wielding, black-bearded demons. A short crease of cracked acrylic seemed all that prevented the legendary skirmish. By the time I peered down, the fast sputtering of the woman's lips had ceased. She'd been speaking to me, though I hadn't heard what she said. I recalled her name, however, Liana Boudreau. She threw down the rest of the used napkins into a dish and huffed. "This gouge will not cease its bleeding. I'll need to fetch some stitches. Make yourself at home. I'll be back. Just don't go into the atelier. That room over there. Okay?" She pointed behind me to the arched frame of a doorway, where the sombre light of a cloudy mid-afternoon draped its black carpet in pewter dust. It was that, or she told me to peruse the sunlit room of the atelier. I'm not sure. I had lost some blood and felt light-headed after my brief tussle outdoors, so it could have been either. Further, I hadn't even seen her leave the room in time for me to clarify. Her soft jaw and rosy scent whisked away in an undeterminable direction. While the flow still escaped my savaged arm, I spent a moment more contemplating the ceiling painting. Why the knife? Oh, what had I gotten myself into now? Perhaps it is near supper. She'd begun filleting fish for a stew? Yes, that's why she'd been wandering the halls with it. The towel, too, to keep the handle dry. Yes. You may be calm, my dear self. You are safe from the bear, safe from the dreary weather, and safe with the lady. As I ruminated, those black-bearded devils appeared to aim their eyes on my stranded, weakened self. It hadn't bothered me at first, but soon my heart thudded like the drums in the tempest of songs as I stared into the rippled brow of one particular demon, whose teeth resembled those of the fiendish bear that couldn't leave my mind. My pulse squeezed against me, clumping together as a fist in my throat. With those black coals of the devil upon me, too, my own eyelids could not reach my pupil. I could not unsee that fiend. The bear was still with me. In my delirium, the evil creature snapped its splintered tongue and sparked the blood laced about my fingertips with a ghoulish cold, and ripped up my bones and would ensnare my own heart. At least it would have, if it weren't for the sudden warm veil of words, the voice of the lady Boudreau. At first it was words, not of my tongue, curling around the archway of the atelier, yet still hot, as if the reflection of sun from sharp rubies. The doors of my vision shut then, and her voice filled the darkness. "Sir, please come join me. Come here," I heard her say.